Morning, everyone. I'm Keegs, and Scarlet Witch is going to have a very big role going forward in the MCU, so I wanted to revisit WandaVision because I think her character is going to have so many implications in the future as a whole with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That being said, WandaVision came out quite a while ago now, about a year ago now, actually. And if you haven't seen it yet, then you should go watch it immediately because we are going to be talking all the spoilers and break down exactly what happened in this series and exactly why I think it's going to play into such a large role in the future going forward for MCU. First off, this was a character that I cared very little about before this show. That being said, I loved this show, and that really surprised me. One of the best things I think about this show was the directing style and how it was shot and filmed. It constantly kept you guessing, and I mean, even from the first episode, you saw that something was wrong, but you couldn't put your finger quite on what it was, and you didn't know exactly what this story was until later in the series, and I just appreciate that kind of level of detail. And I thought Elizabeth Olsen did just a fantastic job of showing a very wide range of emotions, most importantly, a repressed sadness. Is this a different universe? Is this Wanda just daydreaming about what her life could have been if Vision didn't die? Is it something like an isolated story or a what if type thing? You don't quite know, but you do realize that something's just a little wrong. And every time something goes really wrong, they jump through time and they go to the next time period. And I think the actors just had a fantastic time doing all these different roles, getting to play different characters at different times. You got the 50s, the 60s, 70s, 90s, modern day. And I think that was really able to let all of the actors show kind of a broad range of different acting skills, which I thought was really, really cool. When questions got too real for Wanda, she would jump forward into the future, or I guess a different time period, and she would get a tighter hold on the people and just like squeeze her fantasy even harder on people, forcing herself out of reality as hard as she could go in the opposite direction. I thought it was really fun that she was able to broadcast herself on TV, and there was like a frequency that people could pick up on the outside to see exactly what was happening from Wanda's perspective, though, because she would cut things out. The signal would go haywire and she would skip time periods, and just kind of all sorts of interesting things was happening with the broadcast because it was exactly what was going on in her mind and not necessarily what was going on in reality. I thought they did a really good job at slowly revealing things, but never answering the full mystery of what was going on until the very end. I mean, they really kept you guessing, but they also answered questions here or there, and it made you feel like you were constantly learning new information. I also thought that it was incredible the way they handled Vision and the way that Wanda thought about him, so he was there, but he was only kind of a figment of her, not imagination, but of her creation. But it was a free thinking Vision, and he was able to be Vision in this and do his own thing, figure things out for himself. So he acted, even though Wanda created him, he acted entirely independent of her, which I thought was a really interesting concept. Then, of course, at the end of the show, they showed that it's all magic and witches and things, and they actually really retconned Age of Ultron and her origin story where, nope, it wasn't the Infinity Stones that made her a witch. She was a witch the whole time, and the Infinity Stones made her better, faster, stronger, and whatever. But she really had it in her with the whole time, and she got the power within, which was fine. You know, I like that they're introducing heavier elements of magic into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and really this entire Phase 4 Marvel Cinematic Universe is heavily reliant on magic. I mean, we saw first some magic in the Doctor Strange movie in 2016. Wow, it's been a long time since that movie. But anyway, he barely scratched the surface and we didn't get like a ton more into magic really. But now with WandaVision, it's just coming left and right with magic, which I love. I'm all in for them getting just crazier, wackier, bigger, more theatrics, more cool effects, I think, because magic you can really do a lot with. The Vision versus White Vision fight was possibly my favorite fight in the MCU of all time. I thought it was spectacular. I mean, Vision was really utilizing all his powers to the full extent in this fight too, whereas I feel like before he was a little more one note with his fighting usually, but here, I mean, he's flying, he's phasing through things, and most importantly, he's using his big giant brain that he's got in there to solve his problems. And then when he talked to White Vision and literally logicked the shit out of him and said, hey, you know the ship Theseus? Let's do that problem, except instead of for the ship, let's do it for ourselves. And they both believe their vision, so does that make them Vision, even though neither of them are built from the original parts of the ship? So it was a great paradox, and I loved that White Vision essentially broke down and was like, I need to go figure some stuff out, and just completely dipped out of there. And I really hope to see him more in the future, and I'm sure we will. I cannot imagine them keeping that character somewhere in the universe and not using him again, because he is such a great character. By the end of the series, then you realize that Wanda is actually a fairly quick learner and has placed the same exact spell against Agatha that Agatha placed on her earlier, where she placed all the runes around her, and then that really nullified Agatha and all of her powers, which I thought was really cool. And speaking of Agatha, I really liked this character. I thought she did a fantastic job the whole way through, and she, out of everyone, I think, had the most diverse roles to play in here, because she had, obviously, her evil witch, that was kind of the background character and didn't play till more in the future, but she also had the nosy neighbor, and then at one time she was playing a trapped hostage to Vision, and it really kept you guessing as to, is she an important character, or is that a hostage maybe? And then she was evil, and then you're like, okay, so she's clearly playing some games here, but she's also still kind of being controlled by Wanda a little bit here and there, even though she's like manipulating Wanda into doing more certain things. So she had such a diverse roles and acting, and just all around a really fun character to watch. And they didn't kill her off at the end, and now she's placed in her own little fantasy world. So you definitely think that she's going to be coming back at some point, because even Wanda says at one point, she's like, I know where to find you if I need you now, which I assume at some point she is going to need Agatha for something. Wanda is fully Scarlet Witch by the end of this series, and really at the end of this series, Wanda's being painted as the villain, which I really can't blame anyone else for, because she did pretty horrible things. I mean, she trapped people for about a week and also messed with their mind a little bit and their free will and things, but she is definitely painted as a villain right now, and I think even Doctor Strange in his newest trailer, I know this is really going to date this video by saying things like this, but he says in his newest trailer, he's like, we'll get you back on the lunchbox, because obviously she was taken off the lunchbox when she became a fugitive, and she also ran off with the book, and she's really studying and trying to learn further into magic and exactly what she can do, and potentially open some multiverses, maybe to find Vision again in a different universe, or maybe to find her sons, because somewhere I'm sure they exist. So it's really interesting, and I think that's why she's going to play such a huge role. And I think the multiverse of madness with Doctor Strange is going to heavily rely on Wanda, and potentially the next Avengers will have a lot of implications with Wanda opening portals and dimensions to like rips and tears to other universes and things like that, which will ultimately lead to maybe some good things, but often a lot of bad things. And then if she does it enough, she can really solidify herself as a true villain and not just like a hero that sometimes goes off the rails. I'm assuming there's going to be another Scarlet Witch, if not series, then movie, because I think she has probably earned the rights to make a movie, because she's such a big character now, and she's one of the few Avengers that doesn't really have her own solo movie, though granted she does have an entire series. But Then I'm hoping in her movie that White Vision comes back and he's really starting to feel like the old Vision again now that he has his memories. And I think that would be really cool. I'd really like just a solo Vision movie. I think that would be really interesting. He's a cool character and, he has such great superpowers, but really, he just outthinks everybody usually. And I think that's one of the most interesting things about him. He's like Lex Luthor, but if Lex Luthor was good. But any, anyway, I guess for now, I'll just settle for Vision getting a little color back in his suit because, I mean, he looks like a car that just got out of the shop. He needs, a little pop of something. I know he's got a blue forehead now, but really, I think, the purple was fun. The white's a little stark. It's hard to contrast on really light screens. I think this show has set up a good foundation for magic in the MCU now, and I'm definitely interested to see just how big of a role she's going to play in the new Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, because she's in pretty much all the trailers, so it's kind of painting her to be in a lot of the movie, but I don't know, trailers can play weird tricks. But what do you think? Did you enjoy this show, and what do you think? Is she getting her own solo movie next? Where are we going? Anyway, I'm Keegs, and I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll catch you all later for some more Marvel Cinematic Universe talk.